Welcome to SVG-TV's news for Monday, April 28th, 2025. I'm Triska Campbell with the details. The Argyle International Airport, the AIA, recorded an operating surplus of $4 million before a subvention for the year 2024. This was revealed in Parliament today by Prime Minister Dr. Alf Gonsalves, who holds a ministerial portfolio for national security and airports. The announcement came in response to a question from the Leader of the Opposition, Dr. Godwin Friday, who queried the annual cost of operating AIA since its opening in 2017, and how much of that cost has been covered by revenue generated by the airport. Dr. Gonsalves noted that in its inaugural year 2017, AIA generated $11.5 million in operating revenue against $16 million in operating expenditure. The government provided a subvention of $7.4 million, resulting in an overall operational deficit of $2.8 million. In a follow-up question, Dr. Friday asked whether the government plans to reduce the subvention now that the airport is reporting a surplus. The Prime Minister confirmed that such a move is under consideration, but emphasized that several factors must be taken into account, including the ongoing and planned expansion efforts, which may require continued government support.
On a Wednesday, Madam Speaker, you have in the afternoon 5, maybe 6 aircraft, 4 of them international carriers at the same time. You begin to see some strain at immigration in terms of space. We begin to see some at the area where the baggage carousel and customs. And if I may just say this, we have 12 kiosks for immigration, since we're talking about it, and this supplementary has come up. 8 of them are staffed, Madam Speaker, at that hour. I'm requesting that more persons be put there. And then for the carousel, for a couple of persons there to be taking off the bags and putting them down, because if 4 big aircraft come in, by the time you come to immigration, you're collecting your bags. Like in any airport, you take off some items. And then for customs, I can't get it I can't get it sufficiently across that in this modern world, where we deal with customs on the basis of assessment of risks, this tendency for some customs officers to want to search every person, every item. We have to assess risks, and we have the advanced passenger information system, which helps us. And they have that. So there are ways in which we can move the passengers more, but we are also looking at some alterations to be able to accommodate this increased passenger flow.
The Argyle International Airport, which officially opened in February of 2017, is the largest capital project in the history of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It replaced a smaller E.T. Joshua Airport and has significantly improved international air access to the country, with direct flights now connecting to major destinations, including the United States, Canada, and the UK. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Dr. Alf Gonsalves has stated that careful consideration and further research are required before the government can facilitate thorough audiovisual means persons born abroad to Vincentian parents who wish to obtain a Vincentian passport without having to appear in person before the immigration officer for their first application. Dr. Gonsalves, who is also the minister responsible for citizenship and immigration, was responding to a question posed in Parliament about whether the Immigration Department is authorized to process these applications remotely, and if not, why such facilitations is not currently allowed. In his response, the Prime Minister explained that initial research indicates that very few countries allow video conferencing for first-time passport applicants. He added that according to the advice received across the Caribbean region, the standard requirement is that the process be conducted face-to-face.
One of the matters which we have to figure out is this: whether the countries where we migrate to mainly, US, Canada, Britain, Europe, whether they will consider the safety and security of our passport to be maintained with the same certainty as they do now if we do other than face-to-face. I can understand a particular problem with a few people, but when you're governing, you have to look carefully and the way in which the change in pattern of migration is going. We have to be our challenge. For instance, I know, Madam Speaker, that one of the complaints about citizenship by investment, not the major complaint, but one of them, is that some countries which do this don't do a face-to-face. They do it on video conferencing, and questions arise. So I understand from where Senator Bruce is coming, but this is a matter which requires careful study and research within the context in which I'm talking about. You know, we used to issue passports before the time of this government. Passports used to be issued at missions around the world, in New York, in UK, and so on. There wasn't proper record keeping, there wasn't all sorts of different things. Of course, remember those passports, just the photographs was put on, you could have forged it very easily, and so now we have invested millions upon millions of dollars in having a safe and secure passport. And importantly, the source documents, birth certificates and marriage certificates.
This issue is particularly relevant to members of the Vincentian diaspora, especially second-generation Vincentians born abroad who wish to claim their citizenship by descent. Advocates have called for a more accessible application process, particularly for those living far from consulates or immigration offices. The port modernization project in St. Vincent and the Grenadines is just a few months away from completion, according to Minister responsible for Seaports, Senator Benava Brown. Speaking on radio on Sunday, Minister Brown emphasized its importance to national development.
The port situation right now in St. Vincent is that we use, in terms of container ports, we balance between Kingstown and Camden Park, or that's the way it was prior to Beryl. And those infrastructures, the Kingstown port is 60 years old, while the Camden Park port was always built kind of small fits function, and we have outgrown that. So the port, the new modern port that has been developed, and it has taken a number of years. Preliminary studies have been done about this project. We have studied the ecological impact. Well, first we had site selections and whether it was even needed. That was the feasibility, and it was determined that it was needed. We have done site selections, we have done additional site scouting, and we have done as well social impact studies, environmental impact studies. We've taken into consideration climate change impacts and how that can impact the development of the port and the siting of the port. So a lot of work have gone into the development of the port. Linsky said he would have been working on the port since 2008. And somewhere along that journey, Linsky, I would have joined you maybe in 2014.
Yes.
I would have joined of the technical committee, and back then the port, we had the preliminary studies that were done, and we were building up towards what's going to become this port project. So I would have been working with the port since then, and I've been a part of the process since then. So I can tell you it has been a very long, in-depth studies have been done. And yeah, and I'm happy with the progress that we're seeing so far. We have seen the development or the expansion of Kingstown with the development of the new port site, and I'm very excited about the future of the port site and the opportunities that it has to offer Vincentians.
Also speaking on the program was Project Officer Lenski Douglas, who highlighted that there have been changes in the project scope and associated costs as construction progressed. He confirmed that the total funding for the modernization exceeds $600 million.
It's $110 million from CDB. It's 110 plus from the CDB, 32 million from the UKSIF, $62 million from that was approved from Taiwan, and 42 million as the government's contribution. The project profile simply combines the Taiwan and the government, because the government borrowed the 62 million from Taiwan as to add to counterpart contribution, and that was done to cover the difference in the original estimate for your infrastructure work and what the contractor said it would cost. And that cost was done in a time of uncertainty where you had COVID issues of volcano, which would impact different aspects, including insurance of the project. So there's nothing untoward with the numbers. Because on the issue of costs, there's also the narrative there that the government should not be spending $600 million on a port, because there's a report. There's the public narrative by some commentators that the government could have simply spent $20 million and improved Kingston.
Addressing the common question about why the existing port facility in Kingston was not simply expanded instead of building a new port, Douglas referred to a study conducted by the Caribbean Development Bank. That report estimated the cost of expanding Port Kingston at approximately $20 million EC, but found that the option would not meet long-term capacity and structural requirements.
The report has a horizon of up to 2025, where it projected the port would have been doing 23,000 TEUs, 20-foot equivalent unit of containers, right, both Kingston and Camden Park. Now, we're in 2025 now, and last year the port did over 24,000 TEUs of container. So let's imagine the government took the $20 million, applied only these efficiency measures. Here we are in 2025, and the ports that we currently have would have been still at their limits.
It would have been maxed out.
And yes. Keep in mind, when I said we started this process in 2008. We started this process in 2008, and construction started in 2022. So it took us that window just to prepare a port project. So imagine today, in the context of after burial, where Port Kingston, about 60% of that care is not functioning because it was damaged, right?
And we're talking about the old port.
The old port in Kingston.
Right, we need to say that.
Yes, and Port Camden Park. I looked at it this morning. You could see the congestion along with other structural issues for one reason or the other, you know? So imagine the position would have been where the two existing ports, if you went on this study alone, would have been at their max, and also challenge in terms of capacity.
And we would have now been starting to plan.
And now starting to plan, you know. But
the port modernization project located in Rose Place, Kingston, is expected to significantly improve the country's port infrastructure, streamline customs and shipping operations, and boost the efficiency of import and export activities. Members of Parliament today paid tribute to the head of the Roman Catholic Church, the late Pope Francis, who was laid to rest over the weekend. In his tribute, Prime Minister Dr. Afghan Safs described Pope Francis as a saintly, tolerant, and compassionate leader whose loss is felt by all of humanity.
The government and people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines are deeply pained at the death of His Holiness Pope Francis. The Roman Catholics among us, including my family, are profoundly anguished and sorrowful. All of humanity has lost a holy man of God, an exemplar and extraordinary Christian witness who was proclaimed a divine servant and prophet to all nations, a saintly person of faith and works, of love and peace, of hope and grace, of tolerance and caring, of humility and service. We in St. Vincent and the Grenadines will continue to revere the memory of Pope Francis for his tireless efforts to ease the burdens of the poor, the hungry, the dispossessed, the marginalized, the disadvantaged, for his fearless voice on behalf of the victims of the scourges of vile discrimination, fascistic impositions, hateful conflicts and war, for his quest to lift the suffering of all those who have had to endure affliction and hurt on that dangerous proverbial road to Jericho.
Prime Minister Gonzalez reflected on the personal relationship he shared with Pope, describing it as an inspirational treasure that deeply influenced him.
Personally, I am forever in Pope Francis's death. I shall always remember his pastoral guidance to me at a private audience in December 2013 at the Vatican. His blessing then granted unto me remains a sacred gift and an inspirational treasure. His faith, his love for people, his ecumenism, his sense of justice and mercy, and his humor shone brightly in his quiet sanctuary. Please convey to the Holy Catholic Church and the Holy See our sincerest condolences on the passing of our dear brother, spiritual guide, and great moral leader, Francis.
The Prime Minister also acknowledged Pope Francis's global legacy of humanity, inclusion, and advocacy for the poor and marginalized, saying his example will continue to guide not only the Catholic Church, but also leaders and people around the world. Welcome back to the Evening News. Restaurant Week 2025 was officially launched today at the Grenadines House by the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Tourism Authority. The event, which will run from June 22nd to the 28th, will be held under the theme A Taste of Vincy. Chair of the SVG Tourism Authority, Bianca Porter, noted that this year's Restaurant Week is taking place just 7 months after the 2024 edition, which was widely regarded as a resounding success.
Isola Giddens was committed to ensure that Restaurant Week was not a one-off event, but instead that it would become an important part of our tourism industry's calendar of events, and as such, the planning commenced in short order, supported by the enthusiasm of the committee members. Food in particular, and also beverages, are an integral part of our lives, our culture, and our heritage. And as tourism practitioners, it is important that we foster and encourage the development of our student chefs and our young and upcoming chefs and mixologists, while creating an environment where practicing chefs from all areas of the tourism industry are provided with opportunities for professional development.
Porter announced that the popular culinary workshop introduced during the 2024 event will return this year. It will once again be facilitated by Vincentian-born, Caribbean-based chef and will form part of the week's featured activities.
Our chefs with both theoretical and practical exposure to new and/or international trends and techniques, sparking their interest to return to their workplaces to experiment and showcase their creativity. There are other entities and businesses which can benefit both directly and indirectly from the effects of Restaurant Week 2025. These include food distributors, beverage distributors, liquor stores, supermarkets, farmers, butchers, and fishermen, to name a few. Additionally, closer partnerships will be forged with banks, propane gas suppliers, and other entities who support our businesses in one way or another. Opportunities also exist in the tourism industry for the further development of the concept of street food, which is of interest to many of the visitors to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Today's visitors are eager to immerse themselves in different cultures, to see food being prepared, and to taste foods infused with our island's herbs, spices, and prepared with our island's ground provisions, pork, poultry, and fish. This forms an integral part of the visitor experience, and it should be encouraged.
She also emphasized the importance of developing farm-to-table concepts introduced during the Restaurant Week 2024. According to Porter, visitors are increasingly interested in organic, locally grown food, and the initiative aligns with the global trends in sustainable and healthy dining.
Many of us are often told by our guests that our bananas, lettuce, tomatoes, and other locally grown fruits and vegetables are so much more flavorful than those found in their home countries. We need to capitalize on this. Restaurant Week clearly opens opportunities for the development of both food tourism and agri-tourism in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. As we embark on Restaurant Week 2025, we look forward to the continued support of the media, sponsors, food enthusiasts, chefs, mixologists, hotels, restaurants, and other food vendors as we continue to work towards the enhancement of the hospitality and tourism industry in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Restaurant Week continues to serve as a platform to showcase the culinary diversity of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, support local chefs and farmers, and promote gastroeconomic tourism in the island. More employment can be generated through agriculture for the people of Layou and the neighboring communities. That's the view of former Member of Parliament for the South Leeward, Nigel Stevenson. He was speaking last Friday at the official opening of the constituency office for Conroy Huggins, who will be contesting the Central Leeward seat on behalf of the New Democratic Party.
I look at Layou and it is very painful. Painful in the sense that there are so many young people walking the streets of Layou, literally night and day, looking for jobs and cannot find jobs. How many young people do you know from Layou? And I know a lot of them, because in my life before being a politician, I was a teacher. And I've taught so many people from this town of Layou. And when I look at them, they're just about, like the Rasta say. What's going on? I about. What happened? You're not working? No, can't find job.
MP Stevenson stated that one of the key ways to address employment challenges in the area is by investing in and revitalizing the agricultural sector.
Now, you would have heard us talk about the 4 pillars of the economy that we want to concentrate on. The unique thing about Central Leeward is that they have a coast. They have the sea right there in the backyard. And further up, you have mountains. So undoubtedly, employment can be created from fishing, and employment can be created from agriculture. So we're talking about the pillars of development, and we're talking development of the economy. We're talking about agriculture, we're talking about tourism, we're talking about the blue economy with respect to fishing and the different components, and also we're talking about the new or the orange economy.
He emphasized that with proper support and planning, agriculture has the potential to not only boost local food production, but also create sustainable jobs and improve livelihoods in rural communities. The Junior Chamber International JCI is gearing up to host its 56th annual convention this October. Speaking on NBC Radio's Face-to-Face program today, Dominic Horn, Vice President of the Individual Development for the local chapter, described the convention as a highly anticipated event. He emphasized that the JCI convention is not only an opportunity for recruitment, but also plays a vital role in shaping young leaders and providing resources to the wider community.
Is during a convention, actually, we were able to build the fancy clinic. And not just that, we do our annual health fairs every year. So we target people who may not have the convenience or the ability to afford primary healthcare services. And we take those services to them insofar as reasonably possible. Now, we also started recently in 2022, the GISI's or the Environmental Awareness Campaign, where we basically have a recycling competition, engaging the secondary school students to create something from materials we'd usually dispose of, my apologies. And this really and truly just encourages them to recycle and get into the habit of reusing things. A lot of single-use plastics can be reused, and to protect our environment most of all. And of course, we would have gone to our JCI West Indies and won numerous awards. Last year, I remember we won the School Garden Initiative, which was a collaborative project. So that won an award for Best Inter-Collaboration Project. And there's so many more.
Horn also shared insights into the planned activities for the convention. He noted that special emphasis will be placed on member recruitment and engagement through the lead-up to the convention.
All right, so what are some of the other upcoming activities? And I know you're big this year on recruitment. What are some of the activities and the specific plans for recruitment? You're going into different areas, just sensitizing persons about the JCI and encourage them to be a part and get involved.
So this year, as we have a convention, which is a really big project and a really big activity for the region, we are actually focusing mostly on our flagship projects, which would be our JC's Environmental Awareness Campaign, our National Health Fair, our Mental Health Symposium, right? So the bigger projects that we do rather than the small activities, that's what we're really focusing on this year, because convention is taking up a lot of our manpower and resources, because we really and truly want to plan something amazing so that we represent St. Vincent well and we share our rich culture with our region.
The JCI convention is expected to draw participation from members across the country and the region, offering a platform for collaboration, development, and service.